staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. It is PTL. Hope everybody had a great weekend out there. I know I did. And we're back at it, and plenty of news to discuss. A lot has transpired over the weekend. We certainly have a lot to talk about. We're in the YouTube Super Chat, so your questions and comments will be heard. My YouTube page is at PTL Radio Show. Of course, the website, pushingthelimits.live. The Really American Network. We're everywhere. TikTok, Twitch, you name it, we're there. And we appreciate you being a part of the show. The ever so growing PTL Radio Show. I guess they played some of my clips on MSNBC over the weekend. A few people sent me some text saying, hey, I saw you on MSNBC. So that's kind of cool. I'll be on Piers Morgan again soon, hopefully later in the week. And I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to dissect this crazy press conference in the White House today, in the press briefing room, where once again Donald Trump is proving to the world that he is a wannabe dictator. Now, why do I say that? Well, we're going to get into this, but crime in Washington, D.C. is down. In fact, violent crime is second lowest it's been since 1966 in Washington, D.C. Yet, Donald Trump is calling in the National Guard. Absolutely insane. So to kick off this show on a Monday to talk about this and much, much more from this off-the-rail crazy press briefing, I figured why not invite my friend Ryan Shedd, very popular left-leaning podcaster, joining us right now on the show. Ryan, it's good to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, brother. I get more popular every time I come on here, so thank you.
well, I always love it when you come on, Ryan, and I really appreciate it. It's not like we don't have a lot to talk about today.
Oh, bro.
It's crazy, right? I mean, the first question I want to ask you is, crime in D.C. is down dramatically. Yep. This is something that we should all be celebrating. If Donald Trump celebrated that, I'd be like, hey, that's a good thing. And what do you make of the fact now that you have Kash Patel up there that says, yeah, crime is down. Yeah, that's true in D.C., but yet he's bringing in the National Guard? What do you make of this, Ryan?
I mean, it's a power play. From where I'm standing, there's no other way to really look at it. And I want to remind folks, too, there's been some dry runs here, okay? He gassed people for a photo op in front of a church with a Bible. January 6th was the dry run, and we as Americans failed to hold them accountable. And now all the people that were like, well, the Constitution will stop him. This man doesn't care about the Constitution, okay? That's not going to stop him. So for me, I think this is just a show of I'm not leaving in 2028. We got video of him passing out Trump 2028 hats from a merch store inside the White House. Like, it's not a joke. It's not trolling the left. And more importantly, if you think that we need a president running the most powerful country in the world with the nuke codes trolling the left by having these Trump 2028 hats, like, you're insane. Like, you've lost the plot.
I completely agree with you. My concern, and I'm sure it's yours as well, Ryan, is that this isn't just going to be happening in D.C., that, he's going to do what he did in L.A., which, by the way, I think we all could agree was a waste of time, a waste of resources. It was completely unneeded. And now we're learning that the mayor there in D.C. and local law enforcement weren't even told that he was going to be bringing in the National Guard.
Yeah, they weren't involved at all.
And
again, so how do we, we're going to kick abortion back to the states and we're going to let the cities run the city. But all Trump's been doing for the last month or two is showing us that he wants the federal government to intervene in anything that doesn't go as planned for his agenda. Yeah. Do you think that's fair to say, bro?
Absolutely. I think that's fair to say. And it just amazes me that, Jeanine Pirro and Pam Bondi up there with Kash Patel, and they know what he's spewing is absolute
Fox
BS.
News administration.
Yeah, it's insane. It really is. It really is, Ryan. You're right about that. But what's even more dangerous, and we talk about the word dictatorship all the time, and people on the far right think we're crazy for bringing that up. Well, what else would you call this? Why are they bringing in the National Guard other than to treat homeless people like they're not human beings? What? Really, I can't think of any other reason why. And in this press conference, he called him Gavin Newscum again. Pritzker, you know, he's insulting other people's bodies for being obese when this man we all know is morbidly obese himself.
Yep.
I mean, I don't even know what I watched this morning. It was so off the rails.
Yeah, you know, I was really focused on the National Guard. I didn't get to see any of the clips from this morning yet. You know, I just want people to really focus on what's happening here. And that is, we have a president of the United States who stood up on a stage on the 4th of July when we should have been celebrating our country and said that he hated half of the country. He hated Democrats, he hated liberals, he hated anybody that didn't go along with his agenda. So if that, again, is not a huge red flag, we need to remember the president of the United States is elected to represent our country, not just nationally, but on the international stage. This man does not represent everybody in our country. Like, he doesn't even represent half the country. So we need to get leaders in here that actually care about us, because this dude only cares about himself. And this is about control. It's about showing that he can and will shut down a city, that he can and will use any kind of military that he can get his hands on, whether it's the National Guard, whether it's active duty. This man does not care. I need you all to understand that the Constitution and the military are not going to save us. He has spent the last 6 months appointing loyalists to every level of the military and in the Pentagon that he can get. And Pete Hegseth is the biggest loyalist of them all. So if you think that anybody in that chain of command is going to jump in and save us and stop him, especially after watching how everybody got nuked after the January 6th committee hearings and how everybody that went against Trump was discredited and attacked, yeah, I got a big plot of water in Arizona that I'd love to sell you.
Yeah, and you know what's even more ridiculous about this whole situation is, you know, Donald Trump is the first guy that usually gloats when he has a statistic that is in his favor, and actually they have one. Yeah, it's the last 2 years, but crime is down in D.C. over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
The evidence speaks for itself, but Donald Trump was speaking today like crime is up, and it's not. Crime is down. So I really can't put anything into this with logically why he would do this. Why do you think he's doing this?
Well, I wanted to go back to what you said a minute ago, and it's the homeless or the unhoused. And he said that he had a plan. Oh, I have a plan for these people. We're just going to move them far away from D.C. Okay, well, what's your plan, sir? Please outline your plan for helping these people, because a lot of those unhoused people you speak of are veterans.
Right.
So what is your plan for helping these people? Because just getting them rounded up and arresting them isn't going to do anything. Now, if you look at it from a privatized prison standpoint, then it kind of starts to make sense, because then they're going to get paid for putting these folks in jail.
Yeah. And, you know, I see this as just a little showmanship and just Donald Trump acting like, as they call him, Superman, which is absurd, you know, just sticking his chest out.
AI should not be allowed to do that. They should not be allowed to make those videos.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Those AI videos are something special, let me tell you. Yeah. But I mean, you know, when we haven't even touched on, you know, Vladimir Putin, and I wanted to get into this with you because, first of all, multiple times in this press conference, Donald Trump said he was going to Russia to meet Vladimir Putin. No, dummy. He's going to Alaska, not Russia. Number two.
Did he give it back?
Yeah. And then number two, he was more harsh on Zelensky again today than he was Vladimir Putin. Every single time he says that Putin wants peace, there's another airstrike. And he was more harsh on Zelensky again today in this press conference. I find it so despicable that you have Putin and Russia, who invaded this country, our allies, and yet he still puts a lot of the pressure and a lot of the criticism on Zelensky, who's done nothing.
Yeah. Well, and let's go back to what he said. Oh, we need to have a diplomatic solution. And Zelensky and everybody with a brain told this man, like, we've tried diplomacy with Putin. Like, we've signed ceasefires with him. We've signed deals, and he always negates them. He always breaks them. So respectfully, this isn't going to work. Your plan, what you think needs to happen, I'm speaking to Donald Trump, is not going to work, is what a lot of people have been telling him. And now after saying, oh, I don't like what Putin did. Oh, Putin shouldn't be doing that. Like, he's been trying to make it look like he's not a Putin puppet. But today he just showed that he absolutely is.
There's no question about it. He proves it every day. He proves it every single day.
As much as he tries to hide it. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, didn't the tariff deadline didn't the deadline for China, didn't that happen yesterday? Am I wrong on that? It's funny. Now he's praising China. Maybe, he's praising China now, but there's no deal made there. He does the same thing with Russia. No sanctions there. And then they wonder why we call him Taco Trump. He proves it every day.
Yeah. Well, and again, I really don't like I don't like the position of let's bully everybody. Let's bully everybody economically until they bend knee, because at some point that is going to backfire on us. It may be after Trump's long gone, but at some point the relationships that we are literally destroying, like this dude is literally destroying this just to make himself look good in an attempt to get a Nobel Peace Prize. Like, he doesn't care what he destroys in pursuit of those things.
Yeah.
So we have to keep that in mind.
I don't understand, and we talk about this all the time, Ryan, and I don't understand how at this stage in the game you could still support this man. Now, I didn't really understand why people voted for him 6, 7 months ago, 8 months ago, but I really don't understand it now, and I'm losing patience with these people. I'm like, what has he done in 7 months where you can say, wow, I really like what he's doing? And a lot of the MAGA people that I talk to, they always point to immigration. I say, okay, let's talk about immigration policy. Do you think people have the right? Do they have the right to due process? Are you okay with Donald Trump changing the language in the Constitution? Are you okay with, people who have lived in this country for decades being ripped from their families that have never committed a violent crime in their life? Now, there's a percentage of those people that'll say yes. We call those people bigots and racists, but that's part of his immigration policy. Some people might like the fact that all these people are being deported. Do you like the fact that some of these nonviolent criminals are being, sent to Alligator Alcatraz or an El Salvador prison? I don't know how anybody could like that unless you're a bigot.
To me, it's so much bigger than that too. It shows their economic ignorance. And what I mean by that, even Donald Trump a few days ago, there's a video out there of him backing off and being like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have rounded up all the farmers that were picking our food and, getting food on our tables. Like, maybe that was a bad idea. Yeah, no kidding. Like, you never should have been going into places of employment to begin with. And more importantly, why aren't you holding the people accountable that knew that they were hiring these folks, that knew they were underpaying them? Like, these people aren't facing any issues. So it's just, in fact, I don't think you have a problem with it. I don't think any liberal I know has a problem with it. If you guys want to go in jails and go get people that are dealing drugs or whatever on our streets, like if they're illegal, or whatever you want to call them, kick them out. Sure. I don't have a problem getting criminals out of the country. I really don't. My issue is that you are rounding up people with no due process, no warrants, and when we ask for information on said person, like, okay, well, what do you have on this person? They have nothing. And then, like you pointed out, they go and they do some background, like independent journalists, and it turns out, oh, these people are citizens. A couple of them are veterans that got their citizenship for serving our country for over 20 years, and we're kicking them out. Like, and by the way, the fact that we let a felon and a prolific business fraud and an adjudicated abuser make these decisions and have control of the military, and think that a business fraud was somehow going to be good at running this country or somehow tell you and I the truth? Come on, y'all.
And it's only going to get worse because they're still saying on the right that this big, beautiful bill actually helps those that are on Medicare. And it makes it stronger. And then, in the next year or so, all these people that are going to be losing their health care coverage, many of these people, I would imagine a good portion of them, voted for Donald Trump. What is going to be the excuse then?
It was Biden. It's going to
You're
be the
probably
excuse.
right.
But go on the White House's social media this morning. They put Donald Trump tweeted out that tariffs are making America rich again. And I'm like, no, they're not. More importantly, they're being paid by us, the American people. Like, the left didn't make this up. It's literally the definition. It's the economic definition. Go read it up. Tariffs can be used as a good tool, but when they're excessively used, that's when you start crossing over into trade wars, which is where we're at right now. He's trying to bully everybody. Tariffs are not paid by those countries.
No,
They're
American
paid by us.
Yep.
They're paid by the business That when the goods come into the country, and then the business sits down and figures out how much they have to add to per unit cost. That means for every unit they sell, they have to add, let's say, 5 cents to every unit to make up for the trade deficit. You and I, as the consumers, are going to pay that 5 cent increase to the business, and he's going to use that to pay the tariffs. It's really
amazing.
that simple, guys.
It really is. It's that you're right, Ryan. It's not brain surgery. It's very simple who's paying for these tariffs. And it's the American consumer. It's our economy that's going to be struggling, and others as well. And it's not going to get any better. Why? Because Donald Trump likes the word tariff, doesn't seem to understand how it works.
Yeah.
And now, we're headed closer, obviously, to the 2026 midterms. Do you believe? And I don't know really yet, because listen, I predicted the last presidential election wrong. I thought it'd be close.
Bro.
I thought Kamala was going to win. I don't know the way America is going to react, but do you think this could be a referendum on MAGA Republicans across the country? Because by the time these elections happen in 2026, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be struggling even more than they are right now. They're going to be losing their food stamps. They're going to be losing a lot of government programs, including Medicaid.
And it won't just be liberals and Democrats.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you think this is going to be a referendum on MAGA Republicans?
I hope so. I think that's the best way I can put it right now. I do see a lot of people that are not happy, whether it's the economy, grocery prices, or the Epstein files, whatever it is that is, sending people over the edge of seeing this guy for what he is. I'll take it at this point. Like you said, the 2026 elections are what matter, and I need to be better about remembering that sometimes I have to put aside saying I was right, and just be more focused on making an agreement or getting these people to vote in the way that we need them to vote. Like, I'm not asking you to commit fraud. I'm not asking you to do anything crazy. I'm asking you to stop voting for Republicans because they don't have a spine. They've shown us repeatedly. They don't have the best economic policies, and that is verifiable through graphs and data.
Ryan, sorry, we lost you for a second there, brother.
Oh, am I gone?
Yeah, we're good. I don't know what just happened there. I think either your screen froze or mine screen froze, but please start over in that explanation because we lost you there for a few. Go ahead, my friend.
What was the question? I went right into it.
Referendum in 2026. Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. So what I was saying is I hope so, and I need to be better about not being so quick to say, I told you so, I was right. We do have to bring these people in, like you said, in 2026, because it's not about being right. It's about bringing these people in. It's about really building a community of Americans that can see that Republicans don't have a spine. They don't have the best economic policies in mind, and just data. Look at the graphs. It shows you that statistically and historically, Democrats are better for the country economically. So
you mean we shouldn't pay attention to those charts that Donald Trump shows in the Oval Office?
When he started shifting through them, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be good." This is. They don't even Sharpie on the table. This is going to get real interesting.
It reminded me a little bit. The hurricane map that he did years back in his first administration, if you remember that. Really, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how people could pay attention to this and not laugh because it's so ridiculous.
It really is.
What do you expect is going to happen on Friday when Donald Trump apparently meets Putin? According to Trump, he's meeting him in Russia, but we know it's going to be in Alaska.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll still be ours, when he's done.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the crazy thing. He's telling Vladimir Putin, why don't you just cough up some land? Which is what he's probably going to go tell them on Friday. You need to just give Russia some land so they'll go away. They're not going to go away. You do that, it's going to be like Hitler. He's going to start, I got that land, time to go get some more. That's the part that Donald Trump and his narcissism doesn't understand. He thinks that he can fix everything and that he can, come up with this deal. And Vladimir Putin's using him like a puppet. You see it, I see it, and most Democrats and liberals see it. So
Yep.
we just need more Republicans to realize that this guy is not helping Americans. He really is more helping Vladimir Putin. And if you don't think that this is some kind of payback for the 2016 and Russia helping Trump win against Hillary Clinton, then I got a bridge here in Arizona I want to sell you.
I'm going to tell you, I think you're 100% correct. I think on Friday, Vladimir Putin is going to ask for a lot of different things. Trump is going to give in to a degree. He's going to call Zelensky and say, hey, Vladdy, this is what you need to give up in order for this war to end. And by the way, even if he does agree, which I don't think Zelensky would, the war would still continue, and you can't go by anything Putin says.
Nope.
But I believe Zelensky knows that, and he will not agree to it. And then what will Donald Trump do? He will continue to blame Zelensky for Vladimir Putin and his evil regime invading our allies. That's what I think is going to happen here. So I don't think there's any end in sight, even though Donald Trump is the guy who campaigned on, I will end the war within 24 hours. And now his excuse is, quote, I was just being sarcastic.
Which war?
Yeah, yes, being sarcastic with war. Yeah, just even if that was true, which, by the way, I don't believe it is. I believe Trump is so
none
stupid.
Of the wars.
It's so ridiculous. And by the way, last I checked, what's going on in Gaza right now? I am getting more and more frustrated with the Israeli government. And while I support Israel, Ryan, I do not support Benjamin Netanyahu anymore. I do not support the Israeli government anymore. Yes, we need to get rid of Hamas, of course. But it seems like Benjamin Netanyahu and Trump are aligned, and they don't care. And I see the starvation that's going on in Gaza, and it saddens me. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's not getting any better in the Middle East. No. It's certainly not getting any better in Ukraine. It's certainly not getting better here in the United States of America.
And I'm really glad you said it the way you did, because, I don't want to say I stay away from it, because I just posted a few things this morning. There was a team, I think it was a media team from Al Jazeera, and they were all killed in Gaza, the entire team. If you see the videos of just the land, the buildings that have been decimated, it looks like Hiroshima after the nukes went off. Like it's horrible. I know we need to be slightly cautious of, all the information coming out, but I don't know how anybody could look at the aerial video, just turn the commentary off. Just look at the aerial video with no commentary, no music, no nothing. Just watch the video.
It's devastating.
And you can't spin that. You can't spin what we're seeing. And the fact that we're not okay with Israel going into Gaza and doing it the way they've done it, it's not saying that we don't support, the people of Israel. There are so many people in Israel that are not okay with this, that are just as against Netanyahu as we are. Yeah. They're not happy with their leadership, just like a lot of us aren't happy with our leadership. Like you said, the parallels between Trump and Netanyahu are undeniable. Yeah. So, I just want to say I'm with all the innocent people that don't want anything to do with this crap.
I agree with everything you just said. And I wanted to get your thoughts on something, because I was having a debate, argument, whatever you want to call it. Once in a while, I waste my time with these MAGA buffoons online. I try not to, but once in a while I give in. And you had somebody that is Jewish on my social media who called me self-loathing, because for no other reason other than the fact that I said what's happening in Gaza is terrible. Yeah. And innocent children are dying of starvation. Thousands of people are dying of starvation. And one could say that this is a war criminal. This is war crimes that are being committed. Doesn't mean I don't want Hamas to be defeated. And I responded to this person and I said, that makes you complicit. Just because you're Jewish doesn't mean you have to support or should support everything that Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government does. It's insane.
Just like we don't support everything Trump does.
You're born into a certain religion. I'm not even a religious person, but the idea, because you were born into a certain religion, that even if Netanyahu's committing war crimes, which he absolutely is, that we have to support everything that he does, that's insanity. And I will not do that. And I refuse to do that. Hamas needs to be defeated. Benjamin Netanyahu has been terrible for Israel. And there are a lot of innocent people, not just in Israel, that have lost their lives, but there are innocent Palestinians in Gaza that have lost their lives too. And guess what? That's just as bad. And we should be just as angry at that. And that doesn't make me self-loathing saying that.
I don't think so. I think people that aren't warmongers can look at a situation like this and see both sides. Like you said, no, I don't know any liberals or Democrats standing out here going, "Oh, we should protect Hamas. We should protect terrorist organizations." No, what we're saying is that maybe bombing hospitals, and saying, "Oh, well, there were tunnels underneath," and killing kids and innocent people, that maybe that might not be the best way to go about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, it's a very, very touchy subject. I went to a town hall here in Tucson, and that ended up being the biggest topic of conversation that riled up the whole place. And even among like-minded people that all voted, I assume, voted the same way, even that topic got everybody going at each other. And it was like, whoa, we're all here talking about Arizona and America. Like, let's calm down a little bit, and just the rhetoric that's going back and forth. It's tough because, in my opinion, on the outside looking in, Netanyahu was being challenged and was about ready to get dragged out of office by the people. And then October 7th happened, and all the attention got shifted.
Mm-hmm.
And me, being the pessimist that I am, it's really hard not to make the connection of maybe some of this started so that he could stay in power. Kind of like the assassination attempt that we all question over here. And I hate to say that because it's like, it was a terrorist attack, and it was horrible. Thousands of people lost their lives. There's no celebrating that. There's no hiding that. There's no minimizing that or spinning that. But we also have to look at the politics that's behind all of this, and ignoring that to buy into the rhetoric, I think, is a disservice to all the innocent people that have lost their lives on both sides.
Completely agree with you. And I don't think it's going to be getting better anytime soon. That's for sure.
Unfortunately.
Ryan, always love when you come on the show, man. Please plug your
brother.
podcast because it's awesome, and how people can follow you and watch the pod.
Yeah, man. So please go subscribe to my YouTube. It's my name, Ryan Shed, Shead. We have 2 podcasts. I have Hold the Mic with my partner, Ian Sherman. And then also we have With All Due Respect. And I co-host that with Marcus Flowers, who ran against Margie Taylor Greene in Georgia. So we're doing big things on there too. We just had Rob Ryersey, who's running in Arkansas 3rd District. We talked a lot about tariffs and how it's going to affect his district because the biggest Walmart headquarters is in his district. So it's a really good episode. Go to my YouTube and check it out. Brother, thank you as always for having me on and giving me a platform. I appreciate you.
Of course, Ryan. Always a pleasure, my friend. And hopefully we'll catch up with you next week. And watch the podcast, everybody. Ryan's got 2 good ones out there. I definitely highly recommend it. Ryan, we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Take it easy.
Thank you.
All right. Ryan Shed, everybody. By the way, first time he came on the show, I called him Ryan Sheed. I pronounced his name wrong. I told him that would never happen again. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We had an off-the-rails, crazy bat-you-know-what press conference this morning, proving that Donald Trump is a dictator. I have the audio to prove it for you. We have Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, and Donald Trump rambling on, proof that this is a dictatorship. We will play that for you next. We'll be back in 90 seconds. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSH.
That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at radioYOU101.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. We just had Ryan Shedd on the show. Great guest, very popular left-leaning podcaster. Been watching his stuff for a very, very long time, so it's always fun having him on. All right, so if you are unaware, Donald Trump held an off-the-rails press conference today. And in this press conference, of course, they didn't bring up more prevalent issues like putting food on the table and helping Americans that are struggling, that are living paycheck to paycheck, the fact that many of them are going to use their health benefits. No, they didn't talk about the really important issues that America's facing. What did Donald Trump talk about? Well, he talked about bringing in the National Guard in D.C., and we're going to get into why they claim they're doing it and why it's a lie. So the press conference started earlier today, where Pete Hegseth took the microphone, the woman-abusing drunk. No, I'm not talking about Jeanine Pirro, believe it or not. I'm not talking about Judge Jeanine. I'm talking about Pete Hegseth. There's plenty of them in Donald Trump's administration. Here is Pete Hegseth talking about bringing in the National Guard and special units into D.C. Keep in mind, by the way, that the D.C. mayor and all local police there haven't even been notified about this. And here's Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, talking about it.
And at your direction this morning, we've mobilized the D.C. National Guard. It'll be operationalized by the Secretary of the Army, Dan Driscoll, through the D.C. Guard. You will see them flowing into the streets of Washington in the coming week. At your direction as well, sir, there are other units we are prepared to bring in. Other National Guard units, other specialized units. They will be strong, they will be tough, and they will stand with their law enforcement partners. This is nothing new for DOD. As the president noted, at the border, we've got 10,000 troops down there who've been operating in defense cooperation areas, defense zones, where there's zero illegal crossings because of troops on strikers scanning the border. We've been protecting other people's borders for 20 years. It's about time we protect our own. And we're working with ICE and CBP. In Los Angeles, we did the same thing. Working with the California National Guard, working with ICE officers. ICE officers deserve to do their job and not be attacked. We will work alongside all D.C. police and federal law enforcement to ensure this city is safe, this city is beautiful, and as I always say about President Trump to the troops, he has their back. And my message to the National Guard and federal law enforcement in Washington is, we have your back as well. Be tough, be strong, we're right behind you.
Oh, really? Donald Trump has your back? He only backs the blue when it's convenient for you guys. But if you beat a cop on January 6th, somehow that makes you a patriot and a hostage and you get a pardon. He backs the troops? Is that a joke? The draft-dodging coward himself backs the troops. By the way, how did that work in L.A.? You had a bunch of people that were deployed to L.A. Nobody said they should have been there. Local law enforcement said they shouldn't have been there. Local politicians said they shouldn't have been there. You had a couple blocks where there was some violence, and local law enforcement said they had it under control and they were taking care of it. There was no communication there. You had a bunch of troops that came in there. They had no place to sleep. They have no hotel, no room to sleep in. They were sleeping in offices. They had no food and no communication. This is exactly what's going on in D.C. Oh, yeah, might I add, the D.C. mayor wasn't notified about this. No local law enforcement was notified about this. And as far as the crime goes in D.C., they're lying. And here comes Pam Bondi, the dumb blonde bimbo, up to the podium, saying that all the crime in D.C. is going to be ending now. Listen to this.
Let me be crystal clear. Crime in D.C. is ending and ending today. We are going to use every power we have to fight criminals here. President, thank you for caring about our capital.
Mr. President, thank you so much. I'm going to wear the Donald Trump knee pads again, and I'm going to do anything you tell me to do. Thank you so much, Mr. President. You deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. Give him another Purple Heart. Thank you so much, Mr. President. I mean, what an embarrassment this entire administration is. Pam Bondi being right at the top. My goodness gracious, she wears the knee pads 24/7. What is she talking about? There's going to be no crime in D.C. now. Probably the dumbest statement I've ever heard in my life. And here's Donald Trump, the bumbling idiot himself, saying, we're going to make D.C. beautiful again. We're going to make it beautiful again. Have a listen to Donald Trump trying to defend bringing in the National Guard to D.C.
Washington, D.C. should be one of the safest, cleanest, and most beautiful cities anywhere in the world. And we're going to make it that. We're going to make it safe. We're going to make it smart. We're going to make it beautiful. So beautiful. Some of the buildings, we're going to add to it. You see what we've done at the White House. White House is a whole different building. I do that in my part-time because it's a natural instinct as a real estate person. I was very good at that, and I was very good at fixing things up. I like fixing things up. You see what's happening. The marble floors are being reinstalled, renovated, fixed. The whole place is becoming very beautiful. We're going to be adding a magnificent ballroom, most beautiful ballroom, I think, anywhere. We need it. I would have certainly loved to have had it today. I think we would have filled it up. A lot of you are standing outside, can't get in this room. I have never seen the room like this, which tells me that you want to talk about, I mean, this was a D.C. news conference. It tells me that you want to talk about crime in D.C. and beautification of D.C., but I'm going to put that's easy.
Yeah, that's what it is, Mr. President, Mr. Orange Orangutan. Let me be very clear on this. Using military force against a civilian population is exactly what I would call the act of a dictator. Not the President of the United States. Donald Trump's actions to declare a public safety emergency against many of these individuals that are homeless and personally attacking them is beyond inhumane, it's repugnant, and it's disgusting. And that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing. Oh, yeah, by the way, crime has been dramatically down in Washington, D.C. In fact, violent crime, the lowest it's been since 1966. You would think that would be something that we would all celebrate. But Donald Trump is making the case that this is some sort of war zone, and it's not. Now, is Washington, D.C. perfect? No. Is there crime in D.C.? Yes. Pam Bondi suggesting that now there's going to be no crime is beyond idiotic and ridiculous. But for the most part, crime in D.C. down 26% the last 2 years. So there's any kind of excuse or any type of example they could come up with for reasoning as to why they are doing this. That is why we call this a dictatorship, because that's exactly what it is. And Alan Conklin on the YouTube Super Chat says, was in D.C. Thursday and Friday, saw a great concert, and then we went to the zoo. The city looked great, and we had a great time. Smoke and mirrors again. Well, obviously, I agree with you, my friend. And I don't know any other reason why Donald Trump would do this other than he's just cruel. He's just cruel, and he just loves chaos. So speaking of chaos, it's funny how we always heard that Joe Biden is the guy with the Alzheimer's, that Joe Biden is always the guy in the bunker, right? Right-wingers out there are still obsessed with Joe Biden, and they're still obsessed because they all think they're doctors, right? Well, as you know, or you may not, Donald Trump is meeting with Vladimir Putin on Friday. But for whatever reason, Donald Trump thinks he's meeting with Putin in Russia. He said this multiple times in this press conference. He's meeting with Putin in Alaska, but somehow he thinks he's taking Air Force One to Russia. Have a listen to this.
See, this is a tragic emergency, and it's embarrassing for me to be up here. You know, I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday. I don't like being up here talking about how unsafe and how dirty and disgusting this once beautiful capital was, with graffiti all over the walls. It's another part of it, by
He doesn't like graffiti all over the walls, but apparently if you beat a cop on January 6th, that makes you a hostage and a patriot. He cares more about graffiti on the walls. First of all, Mr. President, do you have Alzheimer's? Are you in the bunker? Are you suffering from cognitive difficulties? Because you're not going to Russia to see Putin, you idiot. You're going to Alaska. And in this press conference earlier today, he was criticizing Zelensky more than Putin. How many times do I have to say this, ladies and gentlemen? This isn't brain surgery. Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin invaded our allies in Ukraine. Why? So that Putin could stick his chest out and steal land and take land away from Ukraine. And for some reason, I think Donald Trump is giving in to Putin and wants to reward Putin for invading our allies. And here's Donald Trump once again. Keep in mind, he's called Zelensky a dictator. He said that Ukraine started the war. We know that's not the case. We know that's not true. But here's Donald Trump once again earlier today coddling Vladimir Putin and criticizing Vladimir Zelensky. It's absolutely disgusting. Have a listen to this.
And I get along with Zelensky, but, I disagree with what he's done. Very, very severely disagree. This is a war that should have never happened. Wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, it wouldn't have happened. How many times have we heard this? It wouldn't have happened if I was president of the United States. How many times can we say that now? The explosion that took place in Pennsylvania today wouldn't have happened if Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden was president. Really, you can go down the list of every single tragedy and anything that happens under the Trump administration and say it wouldn't have happened under Joe Biden. That's exactly what Donald Trump did for 4 years. And now anything that happens, anything, he blames it all on Joe Biden. This was the same guy who literally said that he would end the war within 24 hours. That's what he said. He said it almost at every campaign rally. In fact, he said he would end the war and pick up the phone before he even got into office. Oh, well, I was just being sarcastic. I mean, is there anybody out there with a brain that still believes anything that Donald Trump says? LVZ on the YouTube Super Chat says, I've only been in D.C. all my life, and I'm only a fourth-generation resident. What the hell is he talking about? Graffiti on the walls. Listen, LVZ, I don't know. But this is all nonsense and gibberish. The whole press conference. And here's Donald Trump being really tough on Russia, because if you speak to MAGA Republicans, they'll say, there's nobody that's more tough on Russia than Donald Trump, which is a joke, by the way. Donald Trump is the guy that said Putin COVID test kits in the middle of COVID. He's called him smart. He's called him a genius. He's called him savvy. He's complimented him in every way, shape, or form. And we're supposed to be led to believe that he's more tough on Russia than anybody, which is a joke, by the way. Tell me, what sanctions has Russia given up? Has Donald Trump punished Russia in any way, shape, or form? Well, here's Donald Trump again speaking really tough, because he's the toughest guy when it comes to Russia. This sounds like a kindergarten teacher being tough on a student and telling him to go sit in the corner. Really, that's what this sounds like, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to Trump speaking really tough about Vladimir Putin. Listen to this.
Well, it's the worst thing that's happened, by far the worst that's happened since World War II. So I'm going in to speak to Vladimir Putin, and I'm going to be telling him, you got to end this war. You got to end it. And he wasn't going to mess with me. This war would have never happened. We had a discussion about it one time, and we never had that discussion again. Would have never happened. And when the election was rigged, and then Biden took office, which was barely took office, the auto pen took office, bad things started happening. Bad things, stupid things were said, and it ended up in a war.
There he goes again, blaming Joe Biden for all of his problems. It never would have happened if I was president. This never would have happened if I was president. Well, I would say that we wouldn't have had these horrible tariffs and the American consumer paying billions for it if Joe Biden was president. I would also be willing to say that we wouldn't have had a bunch of insurrectionists and some of those who beat police officers on January 6th out on the streets right now. That wouldn't have happened if Joe Biden was president. We would have had more people, access to insulin being capped at $35 if Joe Biden was president. I can guarantee you if Joe Biden was president, we wouldn't have had this big, beautiful bill and the top 1% receiving the biggest tax breaks they've ever had in American history if Joe Biden was president. We wouldn't have had people that are going to be losing their food stamps. We wouldn't have had all these people that are going to be losing their Medicaid if Joe Biden was president. And Joe Biden would have never cavilled to an evil dictator like Putin. He would not have tried to convince Zelensky to allow Russia to take over some of your land. He would have never done that. He would have called Putin what he has called him in the past, which is a dictator. And he wouldn't have allowed Putin to play him like the fiddle the way he's played Donald Trump. So I could go on and on and on. If you want to play that game, MAGA, and you want to talk about, oh, well, this would have never happened if, Donald Trump was president. It's an absolute joke. Then there comes the China tariffs. Do you remember this? Now, the deadline is tonight, and a reporter asked Donald Trump about this and asked, are you planning on extending it? And that's where we get the nickname Taco Trump. Listen to how he answers this question.
Yeah, thank you. The China tariff deadline is tonight. Do you plan to extend that?
We'll see what happens. China's been, we've been dealing very nicely with China, as you probably have heard. They have tremendous tariffs that they're paying to the United States of America. And we'll see what happens. They've been dealing quite nicely. The relationship is very good with President Xi and myself.
Did you just hear the way he answered that question? This is why we call him Taco Trump. Let me repeat again. The tariff deadline is tonight. Notice how he doesn't answer the question. Well, what if they don't respond? What if they don't do anything? Oh, well, just gives you a word salad. Same thing with Russia. Same thing with Putin. That's why we call him Taco Trump. But when it comes to alleged graffiti in D.C., he's going to send out the National Guard for that because he has no real plan. Now, this is why I say the White House press briefings are turning into a you-know-what show. And I've had run-ins with this guy before. He's Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend who used to work for Newsmax. His name is Brian Glenn. He's a complete imbecile. And I find it so interesting at this White House banter between Donald Trump and Brian Glenn. And he's asking him a ridiculous question at a time where Americans want answers. They want to be able to put food on the table. They want to know if they're going to be able to keep their health care. And listen to this banter between Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, that should say enough for you, and Donald Trump.
Big, beautiful ballroom. Yeah. Could we build a big, beautiful briefing room?
Yes.
Technology.
Yeah.
More seats.
I don't want to do that. I don't want you to be comfortable. So no, I don't want to make life comfortable. So look.
Ha 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 ha. All the issues around the world and what's going on in the United States, and Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend asks the question, why don't we make a big and beautiful press room? How could you take any of these people seriously? Really? How? How? These people should not be allowed to get press credentials. The people like Tim Pools, the Brian Glenns of the world, a Laura Loomer type, those kinds of people should not be allowed press credentials. But they take away press credentials from the AP and others because they know they're going to hold Donald Trump's feet to the fire and they're going to ask him questions that he doesn't want to answer. It's sick. It's disgusting. And it's embarrassing, quite frankly. These people are not journalists. The people that are in that room are supposed to be journalists. When you're a reporter, you're supposed to report, not interject opinion. I'm not a journalist. I'm a talk show host. I'm an opinionated talk show host. I used to be a reporter, and when I was a reporter, I didn't ask stupid questions like that. I ask relevant questions that are not biased. That's what you're supposed to do. But Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend is there to coddle Donald Trump. It's why he always calls on him, and Brian Glenn's always sitting right in front. Mr. President, are you going to make a big and beautiful press room? Are you going to make it great again? I mean, listen, you can't take these people seriously. They're all a bunch of clowns. But then again, if you're Brian Glenn and your taste in women is Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think that's all we need to say. And going back to the D.C. conversation before I open up the phone lines at 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you agree or disagree with me, now is your chance to chime in. You could be a MAGA supporter or not. Tell me why you think I'm wrong. Number to call, 702-221-7283, as we put the number on the bottom of the screen. Again, that number is 702-221-7283. Going back to this of why they held this press conference to begin with, because they're sending in the National Guard units into D.C., and they threatened to do the same thing to Chicago and other places. The D.C. mayor and the local police were not even informed about this. And the violent crimes are the lowest they've been since the 1960s. Crime has gone way down over 25% in the last 2 years. So there's no reasoning behind why they're doing this other than Donald Trump is just cruel and he just wants to stick his chest out and act like he is tough. You literally had Kash Patel, who spoke for a few minutes, and he was actually, for once in his life, telling the truth. And he talked about how those crime numbers are down. He was right. I agree. And instead of Donald Trump boasting about that, he's bringing in National Guard units. This is cruel. It's ridiculous. It's pathetic. And it's, I guess, not surprising if we're talking about the Trump administration. All right, now's your chance to chime in. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's start off with Aaron. Aaron is first up on PTL. Hello, Aaron.
Yeah, hey, how are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so what was DC thing? Trump, as the chief executive administrator of the White House, he absolutely has the right to take over DC with the troops.
When did I say he didn't have the right? When did I say he didn't have the right? Did I say that?
You're implying that he
no. Just because I don't agree with it doesn't mean I'm implying that he doesn't have the legal right to do it. So you're 100% wrong. So now move on to your next point. You're proven wrong on that first point. By the way, sir, do you agree with this? Do you think that we should send in the National Guard to D.C. when crime's down 25%?
We need to go in there with a buzzsaw and handle these cockroaches. We need to take the streets. We need to fix.
Did you hear what I just said? I need you to pay attention, Aaron. I know you're a Trump supporter, but let's just try to have a conversation, okay? Let's not speak in general terms. I'm giving you facts. Crime is down 25% over the last 2 years in D.C. Violent crime is the lowest it's been since the 1960s. That is what the statistics tell us. So basically what you're saying is the National Guard should be deployed to every city in the United States of America, and you'd be totally okay with that, sir? Making every city look like a war zone? Is that what you want, sir? What's your defense of it?
It's being improved by a moral force. All right.
So you want to talk about morals? Is that important to you, sir?
Oh, very important.
Very much. You voted for Donald Trump, right, sir?
Oh, 3 times.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Too.
I know he won. No, he did not win all 3 times, but that's okay.
Yes, he did.
You say you care about morals. You voted for Donald Trump. So why did you vote for an adjudicated abuser? And why did you vote for the 34-count felon? And why did you vote for the guy that bragged about going into teenage locker rooms without their permission and who had unprotected sex with a porn star a week or 2 after Barron was born? You claim you care about morals, but you voted for the guy who bragged about grabbing women by the genitals. And you voted for the guy who was literally best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. So can you please explain to me how you can call yourself a man of morals and support Donald Trump? Do you support all that behavior, sir?
He's been forgiven. All right.
He's been forgiven. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
He's been forgiven. Okay. So you're not a man of morals then. You forgive pedophiles?
He's been forgiven.
You forgive pedophiles.
He's not a pedophile.
Oh, he's not? He's not. I see.
Are you a pedophile?
This isn't about me, sir. This is about Donald Trump. The answer would be no. I'm not in the Epstein files. My best friend wasn't. But nice to deflect from the actual issue. You just called yourself a man of morals, but yet all the abusing that he's done, all the crimes that he's committed, you're just going to forgive him. But boy, those homeless people in D.C.
What crime did he commit? What crimes did he commit?
He's a 34-count felon, sir. It's not my fault that you don't know what he was convicted of because you're an ill-informed voter. And guess what? I'm not going to give you a history lesson on this class. You're obviously a very ill-informed person. Do you have any daughters, sir? Do you have any kids? I hope you don't. Do you have any kids, sir?
No.
Yeah, I'm shocked that a woman would never want to be with you, sir. But let's just pretend for a moment that a woman did decide to sleep with you. I know it's a huge hypothetical and it's a long shot, but let's just assume that you had a child, okay? It's a big assumption. I usually don't deal with assumptions, but we'll assume that for once in your life you got lucky, okay? Let's just say you had a child, okay? And that child growed up to be 13, 14-year-old, a beautiful young girl, very smart, 13, 14 years old, and she was in a pageant. And then an old man decided to go into that locker room when she was undressing and she was partially naked. Would you forgive that person for doing that? And would you support that person for president of the United States? Yes or no?
You're the one objectifying.
Yes or no? Answer the
13-year-olds
question.
now.
Answer the question. Yes or no? Answer the
You're
question.
the one objectifying.
I'm going to
kids.
ask you one more time, and you are going to answer the question. It's a yes or no, and I notice how you're avoiding answering it, which I find very convenient because you said you're a man of morals. So here we go. We're going to try this one more time, or the conversation is over. I'm happy to continue the conversation with you, sir, but you're going to answer my questions, and you're not going to dodge it. I'll start over one more time. I'll give you another chance, okay? Because you struggled the first time. Hypothetically speaking, let's assume that for once in your life, a woman wanted to sleep with you. Let's say that you had a child, and that child was 13 or 14 years old, and she was in some female beauty pageants, and you guys were supportive parents. And an old man who ran the pageant and owned the pageant went into those dressing rooms when your daughter was undressing without her permission. Would you, number one, be okay with that behavior? Forgive that person, as you say. And number two, would you ever vote for that person to be the president of the United States? Answer the question. You wouldn't. Okay.
No.
Well, guess what? So you just proved my point, sir. Thank you for answering the question honestly. So, sir, it only matters if it happens to you or somebody in your family. If they do it to somebody else, you forgive them and you'll vote for them. But God forbid, because even if you did have a daughter, sir, which I'm glad you don't, but even if you did, I wouldn't want somebody going into that locker room and looking at your daughter half naked. So if they do it to somebody in your family that you know, all of a sudden you show a moral compass. But if they do it to other people, you don't care. That's what you're saying, sir.
Not really.
No, actually, really. Have a nice day. You just proved what a clown you are. If it happens to me, I won't vote for him, but I'm a man of morals. But if it happens to somebody else's kid, I'll vote for them. Not really. Ladies and gentlemen, the MAGA base. Thank you for the phone call, Aaron, and proving what an imbecile you are. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the program. Let's go to Tyrone. Tyrone is next on PTL. Hey, Tyrone, what's going on?
Hey, Brian, it's Tyrone calling from Baltimore. You know, the city that Trump says is a rat hole, crap fest, crime-ridden. And I'm sitting in the park, and nobody's being murdered or raped over here right now. Just got finished walking around the reservoir. Look, his whole plan is, my opinion, he wants to start a civil war. Because if he starts some type of civil war, that allows him to institute martial law, which would allow him to suspend the election and habeas corpus. I don't think he wants the midterms to take place, because he knows midterms take place and the Democrats take back at least one house of Congress. His butt is if I can say, his ass is grass.
Yeah.
And so he prefers, he's going all out scorched earth territory. Now he is talking about, he sent the military, the National Guard, and took over the police in D.C. And if he thinks like he can do that with every other major city, I mean, D.C. is a small city. I'm right in Baltimore, so I'm 40 minutes from D.C. If he thinks even like a city like Baltimore, there's a way you could do that. And then the question that these reporters should be asking him, so Mr. President, now that you are in control of the police of D.C. and Attorney General, that means that the next robbery, rape, murder, carjacking, break-in is your fault.
Yeah, so
because
it's interesting you bring up the carjacking, because the carjacking in D.C. is also way down. Just about all the statistics across the board in D.C., the numbers are way down, which is, by the way, a good thing. We should be celebrating that. Over the course of the last 2 years, crime as a whole is down somewhere around 26%. And it's, according to the statistics, violent crime is the lowest it's been since the 60s. But yet Donald Trump wants to bring in the National Guard. There's no reasoning and there's no excuse, whatever word you want to call it. And they haven't even told the mayor, the DC mayor. They haven't told local law enforcement. There's literally no communication there. And it's just another example of Donald Trump sticking his chest out and doing whatever he wants to. And it's incredible. It really is incredible.
Yeah, and idiot supporters like the guy that just got off the phone. that your previous caller, those type of idiots are the ones that empower him until it's them that are under the microscope of his administration, and then they're the ones crying for help. It's like I see some of these Latino people who, I voted for Donald Trump, but I didn't know he would deport my wife. Oh, really? So the mass deportation signs at the rally wasn't telling you something? But now you're like, oh, I can't believe I'm the one getting hit. Oh, yeah. Okay, you thought it was going to be somebody else. No, it's you and that somebody else.
It's really insane, my friend. And we know the stats speak otherwise. We know that if he's willing to bring in the National Guard in LA, when local law enforcement there had already admitted that they didn't need any extra help, we know that it's going to continue in Democrat-run cities to make the case that it's the Democrats and it's all their fault. And everything's great in these red states, which, by the way, couldn't be further from the truth. Thank you for the call, sir. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Chris. Chris is next up on PTL. Hello, Chris.
How are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
I have a quick prediction, and I was just kind of going over some debate tactics that I use when I talk about with Trump supporters. My first prediction is, I honestly think we're going to have Third Amendment violations under the Trump term, and I don't think anybody talks about that.
That could very well be possible. Listen, I don't put anything past this administration, my friend, and I'm done. I'm done defending, or not even really defending, but saying, oh, no, I don't think Trump will go that far. I'm done doing that now. I mean, he has pretty much full immunity to do basically whatever he wants. He's broken laws. He's broken our own constitution without giving people due process. So, yeah, in my personal opinion, that could very well happen. I think that's on the table as well, and I think it's very fair to think that could happen.
Where are these soldiers going to sleep at? What are they going to eat?
Well, that happened in L.A. You saw the pictures,
Yep.
right, sir? In L.A., they had nowhere to sleep.
Yep.
They didn't have any food. Pete Hegseth is a complete imbecile. They don't communicate with local law enforcement. Maybe you should probably communicate with local law enforcement and people that are on the ground there. Maybe you should probably tell the mayor, even if the mayor disagrees with you, maybe you should give them a heads up so they can be prepared. But you see, they're not doing that because they're incompetent.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly.
Yeah.
Another thing I was kind of looking at is, like, I see a lot of these debate tactics that people are using with the right, and some of them are not getting through. Like when we talk about whataboutisms and stuff like that. So let's just say I say Trump is a pervert, and they say, well, what about Biden? What's the point in arguing that? They just agreed with me, right?
Yeah.
So I don't even argue what about
listen,
anymore.
a perfect example, my friend, and thank you for the call, by the way. A perfect example is the last caller, 2 callers ago, Aaron, who calls into this show. He says he's a man of moral character, and he voted for Donald Trump. Now, if that's not a joke in itself, and then I always do this with these MAGA people. I said, if your daughter was in that changing room and an old man went in there without permission and saw your daughter changing, would you vote for that person as president of the United States? Now, obviously, I put them in a corner and they'll say no, even though I have to get that answer out of them. But they're totally okay voting for him because it doesn't affect them. That's how stupid these people are. If you commit a horrible crime, but it's not against somebody that I know, my child or my family, then that's totally okay. I'll vote for you as long as it's not a crime against my family, or in this case, going into a locker room with young teenage girls without their permission. It's not okay if it's my daughter, but if it's anybody else's daughter, I'll support you. I'll vote for you. It's a joke. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Herb. Herb is next up on PTL.
Hey, Brian, question. If these kids committing crimes under 18 years old, if they're being arrested and their sentences, they have no bail and they're getting out and they're knocking down their sentences from a felony to a misdemeanor and they're getting out on probation, isn't that the reason why the crime numbers are down?
No, absolutely not. That's not the reason. As I repeat myself again, Herb, violent crimes in D.C., and no, 15 and 16-year-olds are not responsible for the majority of violent crime. You can look that up if you don't believe me. is the lowest it's been since Herb, I didn't interrupt you. With respect, if you could please, Herb, I didn't. Herb, here's the way this conversation is going to work. I didn't interrupt you. Please don't interrupt me. And then when I'm done, then you can talk. I was finishing my answer to your question, which was violent crime in DC is the lowest it's been since the 1960s. You asked me, where did I get that information from? The Federal Bureau of Investigation statistics. You can look it up online yourself, where they carry those statistics going back to 2023. So you can look that up if you don't believe me, Herb. So you're asking me now about teenagers and people under the age of 18. If you think people are being too lenient in DC, then you would have to give me a specific example of a specific crime that somebody committed. I don't speak in general terms. Sometimes if you're 15 or 16 years old and you steal a pack of bubble gum, you probably don't belong in jail. Every single situation is different. Every crime is different. So you'd have to be specific and tell me which specific crime you're talking about. But what I will tell you is, if that's your concern, then why not deploy the National Guard in every big city in the country? Is that what you want, Herb? Is that the country you want to live in?
No, that's not what I want. But here's the problem, though, Brian, with what you're saying. If they knock it down from a felony to a misdemeanor, it's not going to show up on any kind of FBI statistics. That's bottom line. That's the way the crime across the country. Colleges have been given false numbers about crime and rape.
So, Herb, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you?
No. Let me finish. I let you finish. Let me finish. So all I'm saying is that those statistics have been played with for years. But here's the key. Here's the whole key. If people in Washington, D.C. do not feel safe, it doesn't make any difference what what statistics are. If they walk around,
it doesn't matter what the statistics are. Okay. All right. So let me respond to that. Hold on, Herb. Let me respond to that. Herb.
It doesn't make any difference.
All right, Herb. Let me respond to that. First of all, according to Metro DC Police, as well as the Federal Bureau of Investigation, crime has been way down the last 2 years. Violent crime is down 26%. So if your argument is that it's because all these kids are getting felonies to misdemeanors, have the laws changed in the last 60 years?
Yes, they have changed.
Okay, so
yes,
when? So when? Tell me when. When?
The cash out bail law changed. That was one.
When did they
change? A couple of years ago in Washington, D.C., and that's why these kids are getting out no bail.
Okay, so can you give me a specific example of
Brian,
of
you
one?
know I can't, and you can't either.
So where are you getting that? So where are you getting? So if I give you the stat, are you still there, Herb, or did you hang up?
Yep.
Okay. So I give you a stat from the Federal Bureau of Investigations and Metro DC Police, and your response to that is, I don't care about the stats. And then you make a gross assumption that the reason why the numbers are so low is because all these kids under 18 are getting out, and you can't even name one actual case. But I'm the one that's providing you from the Federal Bureau of Investigations and Metro Police the crime numbers, and you make a gross assumption because you listened to what the orange orangutan said in a press conference this morning. So next time you call into the show, Herb, why don't you actually give me some real statistics on how many children or kids or people under the age of 18 committed violent crimes, and how many of those kids didn't show up on the books as violent crimes. You have no idea what you're talking about because you don't have those numbers. I just gave you the numbers. Pot them down. Nope, I'm going to repeat it one more time for you, Herb, because you're a complete imbecile. Okay? According to DC Metro Police, violent crime is down 26%. I will also say that all crime is down, a tremendous amount of crime down as a whole. And I will also say that violent crime is the lowest it's been since the 1960s in DC. That is according to the Federal Bureau of Investigations and the Metro Police Department. I do know what I'm talking about. You make generic claims that the crime rate is way down somehow because all these juveniles they're not counted as felonies. And then I asked you to name me one specific case or where your source was on that information. And I'll give you one more opportunity, Herb. Can you please name me a source where it claims that the reason why all the violent crime numbers are way down in DC is because all these juveniles are getting let out and it being going down from a felony to something else like a misdemeanor. Can you please tell me where you got that stat from?
Brian, you know that.
Where did you get the stat from?
Your buddy.
Where did you get the stat from? Pot him down again. You're going to answer my question or the conversation is over. I don't care about my buddy. I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. You just said that I don't know what I'm talking about. I gave you the actual statistics, Herb, and I'm giving you the opportunity to answer. You asked me. You said, where are you getting your numbers from? I gave you an answer, did I not? I said Metro DC. You could just go on their website or the Federal Bureau of Investigations. I gave you the stats, I gave you the years, and I gave you the source. I'm going to ask you one more time, and I'm asking you please to answer the question directly. You're making the case that it is your opinion that the reason why violent crime is so low in DC is because all these juveniles are committing these violent crimes and felonies, and they're getting let off on misdemeanors. Where did you get that from? Where is your source? Herb? Bye-bye, Herb. By the way, we didn't hang up on Herb. Slow Herb hung up on his own. You see how that works, ladies and gentlemen? You see, that's how I deal with these MAGA people. They ask me for a source. They ask me for stats. I back them up with opinions with these stats. I gave him the source. I gave him the numbers. He makes a gross assumption. Oh, the reason why the numbers are so low in DC is because all these juveniles are getting, committing these horrible crimes and they're getting, getting off on misdemeanors. Okay, where are you getting that information from? He hangs up the phone. That's the way these idiots think. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, Herb is an idiot. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. We have to go to the MAGA destroyer, Darlene, after that phone call. What's up, Darlene?
Okay. Brian. Hello, Brian. Hello, world. To this crazy-ass world. Okay. First of all, Aaron, and then I'll get to Herb in a minute. But, Aaron, let me tell you something. You want to get rid of cockroaches? Well, let's start with the biggest cockroach of all, and that's Trump and his little flunkies. And then we'll go down to you, which you're the grandkids of Trump. You're the little cockroaches. And, you make me sick. You don't know what the hell you're talking about, and you need to do your research. And Herb, before I let Brian talk, how dare you scream at Brian a while ago? He was just trying to talk. You are an imbecile, and you can kiss my ass.
Thank you, Darlene. You're the best. We love you, Darlene. We appreciate you calling in. You can't make this up, ladies and gentlemen. We have one MAGA caller who says he has a moral compass, but he has no problem supporting Donald Trump, who went into teenage girls' locker rooms without their permission. But then when it's his daughter, or hypothetically his daughter, then he has a problem with it. So if it happens to me, I care about it. But if it happens to anybody else, I don't care. Then we have another MAGA supporter calling in, Herb, who claims that the reason why all these violent crime stats have lowered is because all these juveniles are committing these serious crimes and they're getting off on misdemeanors. He asked me for my stats and source. I gave that to him. Notice how he didn't have a source. He didn't have a stat. He couldn't answer the question. He hung up the phone because they're imbeciles, they're ill-informed, and they're all cowards. Let's go to Mark. Mark is next up on PTL. Hey, Mark, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. Good afternoon.
Hey.
To Herb, Dave, Al, Aaron, all of you are pedophile protectors. And you will never come on this channel and win a debate because bullshit doesn't win the day. Okay, let me get to my points now that I took care of those morons. I have a few ideas as to why Trump is deploying in all these blue states the troops on the ground. I think he's trying to get the country used to it. He did it. He's going to do it in New York. He's done it in the border. He did it in Washington State with ICE, and he already sent Marines. And I think he's doing this towards civil disturbances.
I mean, I think that could
give Congress the right to have martial law.
I think that could be issue. That could be possible, Mark.
But here's an issue, though. He's also deflecting from the Epstein files. He has the news now talking about troops are being sent into Washington, D.C., when in fact, red states such as Mississippi, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Arkansas have higher crime rates than Washington, D.C.
Why is he
at
not
this
sending the
time,
troops out there?
according to the FBI.
Why is he not sending
Because
the
that's
National
his-
Guard there?
Those are his MAGA retards, his MAGA pedophile protectors, such as Dan.
Well, Mark, obviously I agree with you to an extent. And I wanted to read what Reaver said on the YouTube Super Chat because I think this is very, very important. Reaver makes a really good point as you read it there on the screen. It says, Dear Herb, crime statistics are based on crimes reported, not whether or not the person who committed it was caught, changed, or convicted, and certainly not what age they are and what sentence they get. Reaver, you make a very good point there, which totally goes against anything that Herb just said because he's a moron. Thank you for pointing that out, Reaver. I appreciate you. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Steve. Steve is next up on PTL. Hey, Steve, what's going on?
Hi, Brian. I agree with the last caller about the deflections. He's spending millions of our money doing these deflections, and he's going to go into other cities.
Right.
And keep in mind that he didn't call the National Guard when on January 6th.
That is very true, and they'll blame Nancy Pelosi for that, won't they? When she had she had no bearing on that. Donald Trump had the authority to call in the National Guard on January 6th. He did not. He sat on his ass for 4.5 hours eating his KFC, and he enjoyed what took place that day. Make no mistake about it.
And I do have another point.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
My daughter's going to be going up to Alaska in a couple of weeks. Is she going to need a passport?
You know, she very well might. She very well might. Well, I wanted to ask you, speaking of Alaska, although Donald Trump thinks he's meeting Vladimir Putin in Russia, what do you make of the fact that Putin is meeting Trump in Alaska? Does that make you comfortable?
I thought Putin had a warrant out for his arrest in international waters.
That's what I thought as well. But apparently Donald Trump is able to, fly overseas and he's a 34 count felon. So who knows, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your call, sir. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you for calling in. Henry Nuga on the YouTube Super Chat says, taco comment makes sense. Somebody did a job for Trump to be elected and it failed. Now payment should follow. Well, I agree with you, my friend, on that 150%. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Karen. Karen is next up on PTL. Hey, Karen, what's going on?
Hey, talking to you again this week, Brian. I wish I'd been on right after Herb. Because as you know, I'm a 27-year corrections officer of juveniles, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. When we book in a kid, we immediately after the booking enter all their information into a nationwide computer. That's where the stats come from. Those don't change when they go to court. Can the judge lower it? Of course, they oftentimes do. It's a money saver.
Right.
But he's full of more bullshit in a barnyard. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to tell you was when you're talking about when you're talking about sending tests over to Russia, it always gets me. He sent our respirators that we didn't have in the hospital. And I know you were really sick with COVID, so you were probably on a respirator or next to one. And it was the respirators that he was sending over there. And when Kushner was put in charge of getting protective gear for our medical personnel, he was raiding hospitals.
Yeah.
And he was raiding doctors' offices. I told you my kid's a doctor.
Yep.
They came to her office upon a delivery that was being unloaded and didn't leave them so much as a box of gloves.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me one bit, my dear. I appreciate the call. We also have some breaking news for you. Donald Trump, as I called him Taco Trump to start the call, Donald Trump has now extended this tariff, this China tariff deadline 90 days. Today was supposed to be the day. that it expired, and now it'll expire on November 9th. Taco Trump at it again, ladies and gentlemen. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of. Kamisha is next up, I believe. Kamisha, thank you for calling in. What's on your mind today?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Because it's just my opinion. If Trump can't make no money, then his hands is not in it. I have a strong suggestion that he's opening up all these camps. I think somewhere in the bill that they done passed, that maybe he getting paid to house the illegal immigrants instead of sending them back where they're supposed to go, which I don't agree with none of it. But why are you all of a sudden building camps everywhere and housing them?
Yeah, it's a good question. And you think about all the money that they've spent on this ballroom. Think if for a second they could take all that money and help the homeless in Washington, D.C. Think what they could do with that money to help people that are struggling. But you see, Donald Trump and his cronies don't think like that. They only think about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the millions and millions of dollars they've spent on gold layers in the White House. Think about what they could have done with that money to help people that are homeless. Instead, Donald Trump calls in the National Guard to treat these people like animals, because that's the way this administration thinks. Thank you for the call, my dear. I appreciate you. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Gary. Gary is next up on PTL. Hey, Gary, what's up?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. All the stuff Trump's doing with sending the feds into the cities is so he can declare martial law, and he can, if the country's underneath martial law, he can call off the vote in 26. He can call off all the elections, the midterm.
Well,
if we're under martial law, he can call it all off.
I mean, he could. Unfortunately, he has a lot of authority, and as the Supreme Court, the conservative packed Supreme Court ruled, he has immunity. I hope it doesn't get to that point, but I have to tell you, after what they did in L.A., I told you guys, he's going to do it again. Sending out the National Guard to L.A. was a joke and an embarrassment. And he's done it again now, and he's doing it in D.C. He's threatening to do it in Chicago.
He's going to keep doing it.
I agree with you. He is going to keep doing it. And I've warned everybody about this. And you're right. He is going to keep doing it. I don't know how we stop that.
He's going to declare martial law and stop the vote in 26.
You're right. I completely agree with you. It's not going to stop, and we have to assume it's not going to stop. What can we do about it? I don't know. I don't have the answer. I don't have all the answers. I don't know. Does it scare me? Yes, it should scare you too. We want our entire country looking like a war zone. We want the National Guard in every big city in this country because Donald Trump says so, and local law enforcement can't do their job or don't allow them to do their job. Don't tell the mayor. Don't tell the governor. Is that what you want this country to look like? It's not what I want the country to look like. It's a joke. But MAGA morons will call into the show and say, oh, well, Brian, the reason why violent crime is so down in D.C. is because, they're all juveniles and it's down to a misdemeanor when they don't even understand how they count the statistics. It's so stupid, these people. They're so dumb. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you still support Donald Trump today, there's something seriously wrong with you and you need to get help. Let's go to Tim. Tim is next up on PTL. Hey, Tim, what's going on?
Not much. You all right?
What's up, Tim? What's on your mind?
Hey, take the whole Democrat and Republican thing out of it. Why is it bad if a president sends the National Guard into a city to fight crime?
Why is it bad if we send in the National Guard to fight crime? Because that is not, I'm going to answer your question. First of all, that is not what the National Guard is trained to do. Local law enforcement are trained to deal with local crime. That is not what the National Guard is there for. So that would be your immediate answer, number one. Number two, if you're defending Donald Trump, because it sounds like you are, in bringing in the National Guard to a city that certainly doesn't have the highest crime rate in the country, and crime, particularly violent crime, has drastically gone down, then you're saying you'd be okay with Donald Trump deploying the National Guard to basically every large city in the country. Are you okay with that? And that's not a Republican and Democrat question. That's just a generic question.
If the crime, I mean, if it's fighting crime, I don't see nothing wrong with it at all. I live here in Kentucky.
So let's forget about local law enforcement. You're okay with that. Let's not let the police do their job. And let's get, by the way, they're trained to deal with this stuff. And let's bring in the National Guard, where so many of these people are not trained to deal with local criminals. Do you understand that?
Yeah, they're trained to deal with criminals.
They're not trained the same way that police officers are trained. That's not true.
It's not exactly the same, but I mean, even here in Kentucky, when we was having riots in Louisville, we deployed our National Guard to Louisville to help out. Was that?
So what is your defense for him bringing in the National Guard to D.C.? What's the reasoning behind that?
If any president, whatever they are, if they're trying to reduce crime rate, that's a good thing.
So you think you can deploy the National Guard to any city in this country, and the excuse is, well, I just want to lower the crime rate, and you're totally okay with that? You're okay with that explanation?
Yeah, is a lower crime rate not better for everybody?
The crime rate in D.C. has been lowering consistently for the last 2 years. So why do you have to bring in the National Guard?
But if they bring in the National Guard and it goes down even more, is that not a good thing? Or is that bad?
You are making I'll tell you what's really bad. Making our entire country look like a war zone. Bringing in the National Guard to every city in this country, which you seem to be okay with, that is the job of local law enforcement. They are trained to deal with these specific types of crimes. National Guard members are not trained, sir, to deal with the type of crime that we are talking about here. And you're making the case that you're okay with that? Like, I'm shocked to hear you say this.
Okay, take the governor from New York. She deployed the National Guard on the subway system. Was that being a dictator, or was that trying to fight crime?
And why did she do that? And why did she do that?
To help lower the crime rate.
No, but why did she do that though specifically? Was crime going up in certain areas? Tell me. Why did she do that, sir?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay, well, let me help you out. You don't know. Thank you for being honest and answering it that way. I will answer it respectfully, sir. The reason why she did that was because the crime rate on the subways were skyrocketing. There were a lot of people that were being assaulted. There were murders, and the rates were through the roof. And that was the time where she did that, because that was defended by the statistics. The point I'm trying to make to you is you don't call in the National Guard just to say, you know what, crime is really down in this area. Things are headed in the right direction, but I'm going to call in the National Guard anyway, and I'm not going to let local enforcement do their job. Actually, I'm not even going to tell the mayor, and I'm not even going to tell local law enforcement, and I'm just going to bring troops out there like he did in LA, where they didn't have a place to sleep, they didn't have food, and local law enforcement said they didn't need the extra help. But you seem to be okay with that as the excuses. Well, I just want to lower the crime rate. So in Beverly Hills, if you're living in Beverly Hills, and Donald Trump said, I want to bring in the National Guard on every block in Beverly Hills, the excuse would be, I just want to lower the crime rate. And you would be totally okay with that too, sir?
Yeah, is it a bad thing to lower crime?
Hold on, let me get this right. So is it
a bad thing to lower crime rate?
It's a bad thing to bring in the National Guard to do it in this instance.
To lower crime rate.
You're not listening. You're not listening to me. You're not listening to me.
You just said
no. You're not listening to me.
Bring in the National Guard to lower crime rate.
Okay, so where is your threshold with the crime then? So if in Beverly Hills, for example, Donald Trump said, I'm going to deploy 5,000 troops into Beverly Hills on every sidewalk in camouflage, you'd be totally okay with that if there were some shoplifting going on. What is your threshold? Is there no threshold for you, and there's no line on when the president should deploy the National Guard? And your only reasoning is, well, if it's to lower the crime rate, I'm totally okay with that. So does that mean we should go to war? By your logic, let's go by your logic. We can all agree Kim Jong-un's a really bad guy, right? He's a dictator. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
So why don't we just go to war with North Korea then? It would lower the death rate, and guess what? It would be less pressure on us, and it wouldn't be a big threat anymore to the United States if we took him out. Why don't we just go after Kim Jong-un then? Because by your logic, he's bad for the world, which I would agree with. It's your logic. Kim Jong-un is really bad. He's bad for the world. So let's just deploy the National Guard to go out and get Kim Jong-un and start another war.
If Kim Jong-il or whatever his name is in some city in the United States killing people? No, he's not.
So if
he was
you're,
doing that,
so
yeah,
if you're,
send the National Guard after him.
okay, so if you're killing people in another country, it doesn't matter. It only cares what's going. You only care what's going on in this country. Okay, I was trying to make the point, sir, that your logic is absolutely ridiculous. So listen, sir, I can only have this.
What you're telling me, a higher crime rate is better than a lower crime rate. Is that what you're saying?
Sir, that's not what I said. And if that's the conclusion you come from this discussion, then quite frankly, you're not smart enough to continue the conversation with me. I have never said that. In a perfect world, I would love the crime rate to be low in every city. But the way you handle that is not deploying the National Guard into every city, especially when it's a city where the crime rate is dropping. You deploy the National Guard as a last resort. You deploy the National Guard when local law enforcement and local politicians are saying, we need help. Our local law enforcement can't do it on our own. You don't deploy the National Guard without telling local law enforcement, without speaking with local law enforcement or the mayor. That's what the president has done. And for you to say that it is totally okay to send in the National Guard anywhere in the country, and your reasoning or excuse behind it was trying to lower the crime rate, might be the dumbest excuse I've ever heard in my life. It's ridiculous. Can I please have 10 minutes of my life back with this conversation? Oh my God. Apparently, if there's any crime anywhere in the country, doesn't matter how high, doesn't matter how low, doesn't even matter what the crime is. It could be shoplifting. This idiot is okay with Donald Trump bringing in the National Guard. That's really what he's saying. How can I have a logical conversation with a MAGA imbecile like that? Let's go to Rhonda. Rhonda is next up on PTL. What's up, Rhonda?
Hey, Brian. Hey, Brian. I don't know how you do it. God bless you, dear heart. I just don't know how you do it. I really don't. And the thing is, with this, I want to ask you two questions. How do these MAGA men call and feel like real men and bow down to Trump? I don't understand it. I don't understand these.
Well, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, my dear. A real man doesn't commit infidelity with every woman he's ever been with. A real man isn't liable for abuse. A real man doesn't cheat on his wife with a porn star 2 weeks after she has a baby. A real man doesn't put on 8 layers of orange makeup every day. A real man doesn't attack women on looks, doesn't attack Gold Star families. A real man doesn't attack POWs. Those are all the characteristics of somebody who is not a man, who is a petulant child and a criminal and an abuser. That is not a real man.
Absolutely. You are a real man. And my next question is, what are we going to do? What can we do? What can we do as
we got the midterms right around the corner. Vote and get other people to vote. Spread the word.
Okay.
Vote.
Yes.
People that sat on their ass and did not vote in the elections are partially responsible for this. Tell them that. Explain them what's going on in this country and tell them why it's so important not to wait to 2028, but to vote in the midterms. That's what you can do. Spread the word.
Yes.
Have conversation. Listen, if you're a MAGA buffoon calling into the show, those are people that are lost. They're gone. You know, I just had a guy call in that would be totally okay with the National Guard being called into Beverly Hills. I mean, it's just, you know, it's a joke. It's ridiculous. You can't talk to people like that. But there are people that you could reach. Middle of the ground people that maybe sat it out and didn't vote. Talk to them.
Will do.
Thank you, my dear. I appreciate your call. It's a good
Thank you. I'm going to get the people to subscribe to you.
Thank you, my
dear.
dear.
Some more good information, my love.
Well,
Thank you.
appreciate
Keep doing what you're doing.
I
God
appreciate
bless
you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that. Siobhan is next up on PTL. Hi, Siobhan. What's going on?
Hi, Brian. I've been wanting to talk to you for so long. But anyway, I was calling because the reason why, let's keep it all the way real. The reason why he's deploying the troops in Washington is because of black and brown people.
I think that's certainly a part of it. Absolutely. I
He
agree
wants
with
to
you.
Control us. Yes. And I want to know, I've been listening to you for a long time, and I want to know why Herb, being a black man, supports white supremacy.
It's a good question. You might have to ask him yourself, and maybe next time he calls in.
I mean, I've really been wanting to ask him for so long because, I mean, everybody knows what this administration is all about.
Right.
And they've been wanting to hurt us, you know? And I mean, it keeps me up night and day, worried. Because of my kids.
Sure, I understand
mean,
that. I understand that. Listen,
you know,
I've said this before and I'll say it again. I say it pretty much every day. It never was about making America great again. It was about making America white again. This is exactly what they're doing with these deportations, because we all know overwhelmingly the people in this country that are being deported are not only nonviolent criminals, but many of them are brown people. We know that. This is about hatred. This is about bigotry. They do the same things with trans. They do the same. Listen, this is what they do. They defend criminals.
Absolutely.
They defend white collar crime, criminals. And if you're from South Africa and you're white, we'll invite you with open arms and give you amnesty. But if you're brown in this country and you've been living here for decades and you don't have the proper paperwork, we will handcuff you in front of your kids. In some cases,
just imagine how scary that is to deal with.
It's terrible.
Every day.
It's terrible. This is not the country that I want to live in. This is not the country that I have lived in, and this is not the country that I want to live in. And you MAGA buffoons could say, well, Brian, if you don't like it, go somewhere else. Let's wait until you lose your Medicaid. Let's wait until you lose all your benefits. Let's wait and see how you feel when all that happens to you, because a lot of these MAGA idiots are all the same. They only change their mind if it specifically happens to them, because they have no empathy for others and they live only through the microscope, through their own lens, and they can't see it with other people because they're ignorant and they have no empathy for others. Exactly the playbook to Donald Trump and his administration. Let's go to Luis. Lewis is next up on PTL. Hey, Lewis, what's going on?
What's happening, Brian? How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
I was calling because I was listening and I heard what was his name? I forget the guy you were just talking to.
What was the conversation?
And he was saying that he was basically saying that it would be okay to deploy, the National Guard throughout the, as long as.
Right.
I mean, doesn't this cost money? I mean,
of course it does.
I'm sure that this.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sure this is going to be a huge expense, for the federal government, because they're basically paying for this. So imagine if they were to have to deploy that, throughout the entire country. I mean,
why do you? Can you imagine? So you're right. I agree with you, but think about it this way: why would you bring in the National Guard? You bring in the National Guard. Anybody with a brain knows this. You bring in the National Guard when local law enforcement ask for the extra help, or they need extra help and they can't handle it. Not only is the White House calling in the National Guard to DC, they're not even talking with local law enforcement. They're not even notifying the mayor. I mean, it's insane. This should be a last resort. He wants to call in the National Guard to every city, it sounds like.
Oh, it's ridiculous. And I mean, the whole, supposedly, I mean, when they, the whole Doge thing, they're supposedly trying to reduce expenses. And this guy's just, willy-nilly just saying, hey, you know what? I just feel like sending in the National Guard, something that's going to cost, the country, probably close to billions of dollars.
Yeah, so much for conserving.
Let's say,
so much for Doge. So much for conserving money. Yeah, let's just call in the National Guard to, quote, lower the crime rate. I mean, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's utterly ridiculous. And so, I just wanted to point that out, because I think he just thinks that, oh, yeah, those people, they're just going to go in. They're working for free, right? They're doing this. This is just, part of their job. No, it's not part of their job. This is an added expense.
You're right.
And it's just, to the federal government, that's, so it's ridiculous. All right. Hey, Brian, you're doing an awesome job. Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
I appreciate it. You call in the National Guard as a last resort if the local law enforcement are overwhelmed and they need help. If you have, I don't know, God forbid, a terrorist situation, like, for example, 9/11, you would call in the National Guard. If you have, I don't know, hypothetically speaking, maybe even a large hostage situation, extenuating circumstances. There are no extenuating circumstances in DC. In fact, the crime rate, as I've said a million times on the show, and I say again, continues to drop, which is a good thing. Violent crime is the lowest it's been in DC since the 1960s. So there is no excuse to call in the National Guard. It's a last-second resort. What they did in LA is a travesty, and those poor National Guard members had to sleep on floors in offices. They didn't have a place for them to sleep. They didn't have food for them. This is a disaster. And I guarantee you the same thing's going to happen in DC. 702-221. 7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Jack. Jack is next up on PTL. Hey, Jack, what's going on?
Hey, Brian, how's it going?
Good.
I actually wasn't going to call in today, but I had to ask you after listening to Mr. Kentucky if you actually think that the gutting of the Department of Education is going to create more brainwashable humans like that man.
Perhaps. You know what I think they should do? I think they should send Dean Cain to D.C. Have him show up with all his getup. Let's see how that works out for him. Yeah, send Dean Cain into a protest. Listen, man, it's just these are just ridiculous times that we are living in. Very dangerous times.
It really is.
I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine, sir? You're living in a neighborhood, and you know it's another city, just like any other city. Crime rate average to other cities. And I don't know, you're driving in a car with your daughter, or you're taking a walk with one of your kids and your wife, and all of a sudden you see all these National Guard members everywhere stopping you. I mean, is that the country that we want to live in?
That's definitely not the country my family has fought, bled, and died for. That's for sure.
Yeah, amen to that. It's
And,
scary.
Yeah, it's very scary. And the only other thing I really wanted to ask you is if you thought the media as a whole, left, right, center, whatever you are, is pushing the Epstein issue enough, because I feel like that
they're not. No, they're not.
Could be enough to break them.
They're not. I completely agree with you. And we know he's in those files.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they've been doing everything they can to cover it up. Look at the shiny object in the room. And listen,
people are falling for it.
Listen, make no mistake about this, right? And I'm just going to say this flat out. And if people out there disagree with me, I really don't care. If you support Donald Trump now, you support a pedophile. If you support Donald Trump now, you support a sex trafficker. If you support Donald Trump now, you support a rapist. Donald Trump is an adjudicated, he's an adjudicated rapist. He's a woman abuser. Donald Trump knew that Jeffrey Epstein was taking young teenage girls. How they were even working at Mar-a-Lago should be up for an investigation. We knew because Donald Trump admitted that he was taking young girls from Mar-a-Lago because Donald Trump even admitted to doing that. We know that. We know that 25 women have accused him of rape or sexual assault. We know that he's an adjudicated rapist. We know that he bragged about going into teenage locker rooms without their permission while they were changing. If you support this man at this point, and you could look in the mirror and say to yourself, he's better for us than Kamala Harris. And by the way, no way, shape, or form am I saying Kamala Harris is perfect, but I think she's a decent woman. I think she's intelligent. How you could even say to yourself that I still support this man? You support pedophilia. That's what you are.
Thanks for saying it, Brian. You really are a patriot, my man.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, my friend. I'm just here doing a radio show, and I'm here, thanks to people like you. So thank you so much. Let's go to Pat. Pat is next on PTL. We got about 10 more minutes left here. Pat, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. I'm here in Maryland. Brian, if they send the National Guard in, let them start at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Round them all up. That's where the National Guard needs to go. Pennsylvania Avenue, the White House.
Yeah, I agree.
I work in D.C. I've been going there for 35 years. The crime is down. We do not need no National Guard in D.C. I've been working in D.C. for 35 years.
Isn't it interesting that during the insurrection for 4 hours,
right. Where was National Guard then?
Donald Trump didn't call the National Guard, and he does what he always does. He said, oh, shoot, that makes me look bad, so let me blame Nancy Pelosi and the liberal Democrats.
Right. And
he didn't call in the National Guard. Think about that. He didn't call in the National Guard when police were being beaten.
Exactly.
But he wants to call in the National Guard now into D.C. because he's talking about graffiti. I mean, it's insane.
Just like with Herb and Aaron. And Aaron is a troll because I hear his voice and he calls in at least 3 or 4 times and he plays dumb. But anyways, those two don't even say nothing about crime when you are supporting a convicted felon. Don't even talk about crime.
That's true. 34 count convicted felon. You're right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Y'all are defending a convicted felon.
Oh, he's a
Don't even
pedophile.
talk about no crime in D.C.
You're defending a pedophile. You're defending a rapist. You're defending a 34-count felon. You're defending the guy who puts on 8 layers of orange makeup every day, who walks around prancing around like an idiot.
Herb is just stupid to me. Herb is just stupid to me. All that defending Donald Trump. Donald Trump don't care nothing about you.
That's Donald Trump's base. I'm sorry.
Yes.
His base of supporters are ignorant, ill-informed white people. That's what it is.
One more thing, Chad. If they are waiting to see the Epstein files for them to turn against Donald Trump, something is wrong with those people.
I agree.
Because it shouldn't even take that. They're taking away your children's food at school, and
they
claim many things. Your Medicare.
When they attack transgenders and when they talk about how children need to be protected, it's interesting, isn't it? When it comes to gun control, they don't want to talk about that, second leading cause of death in children. But they get more angry at drag queen reading than they get a man who walks into teenage girls' locker rooms to look at them naked and a man who's in the Epstein files. They're not upset at someone in the Epstein files, but they're upset at someone in drag who's reading a book to kids. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Republican Party. What do you want me to say? Let's go to David. David is next on PTL. Hello, David.
Is that you?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, yeah, we talked before. I was the one that said the John Ossoff was a good prospect.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't get to finish my point. Been doing a little research. It's costing us about $14,000 a whack to deport those people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you do the math. If you do 20 trillion, 20 million, that comes out to about 3 trillion.
I agree. You know what makes it even worse? About 4% of our population. We are almost at full employment. So what does that do to our economy?
Oh, they're idiots. They're trying to run off the help.
Yeah.
And the other one, a little point I wanted to make was, what are they planning to do with these homeless people? Do they have a concentration camp set up or something? Or
it's a really good question because our jails can't support them. That's a really good point that you make. What is the National Guard going to do? What are they going to do with them? They're going to round them up.
What are they going to take them?
Yeah, what are they going to do? They give them brochures like Ron DeSantis did, put them on a plane to Martha's Vineyard. What are they going to do? It's a good point.
That's why I called. I thought maybe you might know.
You know what? I have no idea. I think it's a really good question that you asked. They don't think that far ahead, these people. They're very special. They don't think that far ahead. Donald Trump just wants to stick his chest out there. You know, that's what he wants to do. All right, let's go to Terry. Terry is next on PTL. What's going on, Terry?
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Good.
I think we should call this show the MAGA Moron Monday. Let's talk about Aaron here for a minute. I think Aaron must have his own personal Jesus, because I can tell you right now, the Jesus that I know about would not approve of Trump's immoral behavior. So,
but as long as it happens to them, then they're not okay with it. But if Donald Trump raped 100 girls, as long as it's not in their family, they'll forgive them. I mean, it's just the logic of these idiots. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. I'm so glad you took him down. I loved it.
Yeah. Which one? I don't remember which MAGA. Which one?
Aaron. I said you really kind of took him down today, because I was like, this guy's just totally absurd.
Complete moron.
He doesn't have a clue.
Yeah, if he does it to my daughter. By the way, I wasn't trying to insinuate that any woman would have sex with him, because I doubt that to be the case unless he pays for it. Even then, I don't think they would accept the money. Anyway, thank you for the call, my dear. I appreciate it. I digress. I'm so immature. Let's go to Kathy. Kathy's next. What's up, Kathy?
Hey, Brian. Sorry that you had to go through with those MAGA idiots, but you know how they are.
Yep.
What I wanted to ask you was that when they talk that nonsense to you, let's just remind them ask them why Donald Trump did not call the National Guard on January 6th, when those people came into the Capitol building, beat up cops, smeared feces on the walls and floors of the Capitol, took things out, and also wanted to hang Mike Pence while he sat there with his hamburgers or whatever, watching Fox News and not doing a damn thing for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And watching the riots go on. I mean,
those people are hostages and patriots, right? If you beat a cop, you're a patriot.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you're a homeless person, maybe with a drug addiction or alcohol issue, or you're tough on your luck and you don't have a place to go, let's call in the National Guard for them. But yet, if you beat cops on January 6th and you try to overthrow a free and fair election, you're a patriot. These are the idiots, and the idiots that support Donald Trump think the same way, my dear. They really do. I appreciate your phone call. I'm up against the clock. I want to thank Alan on the YouTube super chat. Alan says, MAGA men are all alpha males, right? Then why do these alpha males need a daddy? Additionally, Fox is always the first to cover any violent news. Therefore, it is easy to scare people to agree with them. Well, you're right about that, Alan. I'll even take it a step further. Notice how Fox News and the right-wing networks only it's almost like they enjoy watching black people committing crimes. Like they'll show a random case of a black person sucker punching somebody, which, by the way, is horrible. It's interesting, right? They don't show that footage from January 6th, though, do they? I find that very interesting. Tui Tai says, truth is golden. Thanks for enlightening us every day. Well, thank you for your support. Without people like you, I would not be able to do this. So I thank you guys. Also, you could go to my website, pushingthelimits.live, where you can make donations there as well. Let's go to Johnson. Miss Johnson's next up on PTL. Hello.
I know I got to talk fast because I know you're on the clock.
Yep.
But I just want to say this. I know for a fact that he has it out for Muriel Bowser. I know her very well, and I'm not going to tell you how, but I watch her. I've been following her, and he's always wanted to take control of her. He's upset about her position, being the mayor of Washington. And I know for a fact that he's always disliked her. Allegedly, I should say.
Yeah.
But I know her as close as a person could know another person. So she's doing a tremendous job. And because of the riot a couple of years ago, he's never liked her. Never.
Yeah. No, you're right. I don't disagree with you on that. And I really do appreciate your phone call. Thank you very much. Since we only have a couple more minutes here, the very beautiful and talented Ana Braga is going to be joining us in studio tomorrow. So Anna's been on the front of pretty much every magazine you could think of, but her story is very interesting because she used to be a MAGA supporter. And now for the last several years, she's on the right side of history. So I really love getting her perspective. She's going to be co-hosting with me tomorrow. So there's a guy that has become very famous online, and he's become a friend of mine. He's known as Gunny Speaks Out. He's a former veteran who was very anti-Trump. You wouldn't notice that if you looked at him. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but he doesn't look like your typical Democrat liberal. He goes around town with his F Donald Trump flag and F Donald Trump shirt, which I think is great. And you wouldn't believe the video he has and the people that are just triggered by a shirt that he's wearing. He's going to be joining us on the show Wednesday. Friend of the show, the legend himself, Robbie Roadsteamer, is going to be joining us on the show Thursday. So Robbie had a health scare. He thought he might lose one of his eyes to some rare retina disease. He started a GoFundMe page, and we all know Robbie. He's extremely funny. But we wanted to have him to come on to promote his GoFundMe and, of course, talk to the prankster himself because Robbie's great. He's one of the best in the business, and I love having Robbie on. I believe we're trying to get Anthony Scaramucci on the show Friday, and some other very special guests will be joining us throughout the remainder of the week. So as I mentioned to all of you, and I love the PTL family, which is growing by the day, this is an independently owned radio show. What does that mean? It means we rely on great people like you to support independent media. If you haven't supported me in the YouTube Super Chat, the easiest thing to do is go to my website. Take 5 minutes of your time. Pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live. I do sell merchandise on there, shirts, hats, beanies, you name it, I sell it. But there's also a donate button there. Doesn't matter what it is. $5, $10, $20 a month, whatever you can afford, we appreciate. Helps us keep the lights on here and supporting independent media. If you enjoy the show, please go to support our work at pushingthelimits.live. I love you guys, and thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow with the beautiful Ana Braga joining us in studio. Same time, same place. Have a great day, everybody.